Radio. Join the conversation. Contact the show on Twitter, on Facebook, and on our website, Motorsport Radio.
Hello and welcome. This is the Superbike Show. My name is Lester. Welcome to Motorsport Radio. And in the next couple of hours, we have a vibrant discussion on the way about MotoGP, everything that happened at the weekend from Knockhill, BSB discussion, and all the big talking points with our Scottish senior correspondent, Lewis Ray, who I'm reliably informed was actually quicker than some of the British Talent Cup races when he was racing there a few weeks ago, but he doesn't go on about it, honest. And we'll be looking ahead to the next MotoGP race this weekend at Assen. It's going to piss down all weekend, and we'll discuss how that may affect races. As well as your comments and everything, get in touch with us. We are live. This is the Superbike Show. It's Motorsport Radio. Hello and welcome. Luke Newman on the show again. Hello, Luke. Can't speak tonight.
Hello, Lester.
How are you?
I'm not too bad, thanks. How are you?
Hot. So, yeah. Apologies if I start running insane. It's just heat stroke. Don't worry about it. And also, Lewis Ray back again on the show. Hello. Good evening, Lewis.
Evening, Lester.
So, yeah, you were at Knockhill at the weekend.
Yeah, it was a good weekend. We practiced every single element of weather.
And fully sober, I hear, of course, because you're not yet old enough to drink. So,
of course.
Although you did see, we'll get the gossip about who's doing what in various bars around the track while you were there. So that'll be interesting. Were you at Knockhill at the weekend? Did anything interesting happen? Have you got any gossip that you'd like to share with us? Or maybe anonymously, get in touch, hashtag Motorsport Radio, hashtag The Superbike Show, or you can contact us directly, hello@motorsport.radio. Right, let's get on and talk about the big main headlines regarding stuff from the weekend, MotoGP and all that stuff. Luke, what's been going on?
Well, MotoGP are now halfway through the season. Fabio Quartararo took victory in the 10th round at the German Grand Prix. The Frenchman has now extended his championship lead to 34 points. Over in Moto2 Championship, Augusto Fernandez claimed his second win of the season and has thrown his name in the hat for the championship hunt. Fernandez is now 12 points behind the championship leader, Celestino Vietti. Isan Guevara showed absolute dominance around the Saxon ring in Moto3. The young Spaniard is hunting down his teammate Sergio Garcia, who sits at the top of the championship. Moto2 rider Pedro Acosta will miss the upcoming Dutch Grand Prix after breaking his femur in a crash and underwent surgery today. Jack Miller has signed for the Red Bull KTM factory racing team, leaving behind the Ducati Red in place of KTM Orange. British Superbikes returned to Knockhill on the weekend. Yamaha dominated once again as Brad Ray won race 1 and then Jason O'Halloran took wins in race 2 and race 3. There's been a change to the schedule of the Japanese Grand Prix later in the season. There will only be one practice session on the Friday, with MotoGP FP1 being extended from 45 minutes to 75 minutes. This decision has been made as the Grand Prix of Aragon is only 5 days beforehand and the potential for logistical issues to interrupt the weekend. That is all the latest from the world of motorcycle racing.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Luke. So, Lewis, another win for Quartararo in MotoGP. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a great performance from him once again. Going into the weekend, really, no one knew who was going to come out victorious because obviously there was no Marc Marquez this round, which is quite unusual for the German Grand Prix because he's won there practically every single year. And I believe even the last winner that wasn't Marc Marquez was in 2012. It was Dani Pedrosa, also in the Repsol Honda. So it's been a long time since Yamaha won last time with Jorge Lorenzo. So yeah, it was a good race. I mean, it pushed some of his championship rivals to the absolute limit and over the breaking point. So yeah, it certainly wasn't a dominant performance and still produced an entertaining race.
And Moto2, as Luke mentioned, second win of the season for Fernandez. Did you watch the race? I know you were slightly preoccupied being at Knockhill, but what did you make of Moto2?
Yeah, Fernandez, the whole race, he just looked unstoppable. Practically from lap 1, especially at turn 3, would seem to be his favourite overtaking point. He just overtaken riders left, right and centre and got into the lead and just ran away with it. It was a great performance from both the KTM boys, with obviously Pedro Acosta coming home in second place as well after a great battle with Sam Lowes. It's probably the highlight of the race, was the battle for second place.
And talking about Acosta, he's done himself a mischief. He's now currently injured, isn't he? So,
yeah, I think he's had surgery on it today, and I think it's looking all successful within the surgery. So he should be back in no time. But it's certainly not what he's wanting. Just trying to build up that confidence on the Moto2 bike, and he's looking like he's ready to win more races. So hopefully, it doesn't set him back too much.
And also, Luke. Marquez was posting over the weekend, I think in just an attempt to just remind everyone he's still here. You know, he's not retired yet. Mm-hmm. So that was just an interesting thing that I noted that he was doing.
Yeah, BT Sport were advertising his posts as well to try and keep the attention to Marquez where they were at the Saxon Ring, where Mark has been dominant over his whole career.
Well, relatively. Yes, certainly. Let us know your thoughts on the MotoGP at the weekend. Did you watch it? How much did you watch? If you got back from Knockhill and you caught up with it, did you even know it was on ITV4 at the weekend? No. Well, apparently lots of other people also didn't know as well. We might talk a bit about that. The British Grand Prix, I think, is that the next one on ITV4?
Yeah, I believe so.
I'm not, to be honest, I didn't even know it was on ITV4 at the weekend, to be honest. I was literally flicking through the schedules and it came up with Moto2. I thought it was the highlights, but it wasn't. Anyway, they kept that quiet because I don't watch ITV4 usually. But anyway. Right, let's dive back into some of the debates and stuff. Do let your opinions come in. I will be checking as well and responding the very best I can. Tinternet depending. Those who are on EE will know that there was no EE yesterday. But anyway, that's why we didn't do a show basically yesterday. But yeah, Luke. So back to MotoGP then, and talking points.
Well, the main talking point has to be the two people that before the season were definitely going to be the championship contenders of Quartararo and Bagnaia. There was very parallel races for the two of them. Quartararo ran away, absolutely just was dominant. Nobody else could touch him. He was about 5 seconds ahead of Zarco at the end of the race, whereas rival Bagnaia ended up in the gravel at turn 1 while chasing down Quartararo. So the pressure is definitely on Bagnaia and Ducati, and looks like the championship's gone away from Bagnaia now, because he's, I think I read, 91 points behind Quartararo now. So if he claws it back, it'll be a very impressive second half of the season for Pecco.
Lewis?
Yeah, there's nothing more really to say. Fabio just was straight out of the box, got a good start, and in qualifying, it looked like it would just be a Ducati. It could be a Ducati podium lockout. Looking at qualifying throughout the whole weekend, I mean, Ducatis did look quite good. All of them really, and all of the teams. So just showing how great of a bike it really is. But in the race itself, Quartararo was just unstoppable. I mean, he pushed Pecco Bagnaia to the absolute limit, and it just forced him to push slightly too hard in the first corner, run slightly wide, and then down he went. And I also believe Joe Amir crashed at practically the same, just after him. So it's not what he's wanting either. But yeah, I would say it's Pecco Bagnaia's championship's over now, unless they get some crazy run towards the end of the season. I mean, we did see last year towards the end of the season, he picked up results, and it's almost like as soon as he stops caring about the championship because he thinks it's over, he starts getting the results. And yeah, it's looking like it's over, but if anyone can do it, it's going to be Pecco Bagnaia.
Okay. Luke, there's other stuff regarding Aprilia. How did they get on at the weekend?
Aprilia, it was a decent weekend for Aprilia. Aleix Espargaro in 4th place, but the main sort of highlight for Aprilia this weekend would be the improvement Maverick Vinales made, especially during the race. He was right up there, all over the back of Aleix during the race, and sadly, his ride height device malfunctioned and it stayed down on the rear end, so his bike just squatted, and he couldn't continue to ride with his bike like that, so he had to pull in from the pits. But it's a good step in the right direction for Maverick, and potentially could be a good showing in Assen, but it looks like the weather's going to play a part in Maverick's chances there.
Yeah, I would agree with exactly what you've said. I mean, Aleix Espargaro, he's done exactly what he's done for the past couple of weekends. Apart from now, he didn't finish a lap early, so that was good to see. But yeah, 4th place. It's got to the point now whenever Aprilia gets a 4th place, so they're not necessarily static. It's almost becoming just a normal thing, which is somewhat nice to see. But yeah, I was really impressed that Maverick finally is showing some race pace and not showing that tendency to go back a couple of places in the first couple of laps and struggle to make it back up again. But yeah, it was so unfortunate with his ride height failing. I mean, it's one of the few occasions that we've actually seen that happen before. So it's such an uncommon problem. It's just the shame it happened at that point where it looked like he was going to get a podium.
I think there was actually 2 ride height device failures in that same race. I think that's why Alex Marquez pulled out of the race as well for LCR Honda. His ride height device failed as well. But going back to Vinales, yeah, he's finally found something, and it looked like he had the pace to pass his teammate for a podium position at the time before disaster struck for him. It seems two mistakes really from Aprilia in the last 2 races, with Aleix costing in places and Vinales being out of the race, but he looked ecstatic going back into the box. He was actually happy with his race. He was trying to fist bump his mechanics, which I don't think they could quite understand, where he'd had to just pull out. The team was still happy with the result. They found positive in a bad situation, which is really all you can do. And I feel like this could be the start of something. Personally, whenever Maverick re-signed with Aprilia midway through, just quarter of the way through the season, I didn't know if it was necessarily the right results, because he still was complaining about things that was most likely still in his head, and it looked like he still had a lot to overcome in himself as a rider. But now it's just starting to show some glimmer of hope, which Aprilia clearly seen before to even sign him after the dreadful time that he had at Yamaha. So yeah, it's great to see him, and it's great to see him back with a smile back on his face. Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, no, I was sorry, just diving in because we've had a comment flood in. Yes, on the internets, and John Murdoch's been on, and he said it's quite boring when Quartararo gets to the front. I don't think we're at the boring stage yet, John. I mean, it's still, I would suggest, refreshing to even have fights for the lead, but. And I suppose we all really want to see, really, don't we? The best rider leading in the best category in the best sport in the world, which at the moment is Quartararo. So
we are also a run of tracks where Yamaha have always gone well in the past, so it just seems natural that Quartararo would do well there. But throughout the next couple of races, potentially after the summer break, after Assen, we will probably see a change up of different riders towards the front.
Interesting. Are you of the opinion that the races are boring when and if Quartararo gets to the front? Or are you someone who's still quite excited by Fabio Quartararo? And I mean, he's not had it all his own way, really. He's struggled at certain races, like you've said, Luke. So it's definitely not, it's all to play for, I would suggest. But let us know either way if you have a different opinion on Fabio, and someone zip his leathers up, for God's sake. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, carrying on with MotoGP, and KTM struggled once again, Luke.
Yeah, KTM, they're still not where they'd want to be. Everyone else has taken a step forward, including Aprilia, and KTM just seem to be still where they were last season, which isn't enough in modern MotoGP. Brad Binder did get a 7th place, and Oliveira was in 9th, but they still qualified bad. Their qualifying is something that needs to be worked on and fixed, especially for next season when they have Jack Miller coming into their team. But Tech 3, it was promising for both of their boys. Both of them finished the race, got points. Fernandez was in 12th. He might be starting to figure things out.
What do you reckon, Lewis?
Yeah, I mean, it's still not a season they're wanting, clearly. They still seem a bit lost, but it's nice to see the rookies finally start to get points. But although they got points, I'm not taking anything away from them, but there was quite a lot of crashes in the race and quite a lot of retirements, which really surprised me. I think there was only 16 finishers, so yeah, it's still not what KTM want. They still look a bit lost. It looks like Danny Pedrosa has a lot of work still to do in that team, and certainly whenever Jack Miller gets into it, he looks like he's going to be the main man with development. It seems like that really should be the case. I mean, coming from a factory Ducati squad, which is arguably the best bike in the grid, he can hand over a lot of that information over. So I think this year KTM's just got to salvage what they can. I mean, it's looking like still from the start of the season in testing, it didn't look terrible. But especially as soon as we start getting to these European races, which is when we really start to see the real picture of how the bikes are performing, it's been dreadful. And same with last season, there was a couple of occasions where KTM managed to get the podium and the win, but it's still that scratch headed in the garage, and they're really looking everywhere. I mean, they've changed management, they've changed everything, they've changed the riders now. So really, it's going to be how long until they start to look at the bike and how to change something radically with that.
Well, yeah, you said about Miller. I think Francesco Guidotti did an interview with BT Sport over the weekend, and he pretty much said that Miller will be a man they're looking at for developing the bike, especially where he's had experience on the Ducati for such a long time, which is also V4 engine. So they'll be hoping to try and tap into Miller's knowledge of what Ducati have been doing and try and figure out the puzzle that is MotoGP and get their RC16 up towards the front, which is what Miller and Binder will definitely want, because they're both very talented riders and should be up there fighting each weekend.
Yeah, I think I don't think he can really go into that first round hoping for too great results. I think it's going to be especially next year, it's going to be a long year for him, but I think now all focus on Miller should be getting a bike for 2025 or 2024, which is a while away, and it's going to be hard just for him to keep his cool and just develop that bike throughout this winter and throughout the course of all next season, I would say. I mean, yeah, and obviously KTM's also losing Miguel Oliveira, which I will ask you, do you think that's going to be a hard blow to Miguel Oliveira as they have Miller coming in, or?
Well, from what Guidotti was saying, which you can't really take all the time because he's the team manager, he'll defend the team all he can, but it seemed almost like it was Miguel's decision in the end to leave, which is definitely a big blow to KTM, and they definitely he seemed sort of disappointed and maybe a little bit upset to see the best rider KTM have ever had in terms of results leave, which I don't know how good he is as a development rider. Obviously, he's been there throughout a lot of the project now with starting in the Tech 3 team, but I don't know. I think Miller and Miguel, I'd say, are probably about the same level in talent. So hopefully the little bit of extra knowledge Miller will have will bring that little bit more positivity to KTM, rather than getting stale with the same riders only riding KTMs and then leaving.
Okay. Sounds like a topic we can continue for the rest of the season, for sure. Excuse me. Sorry, I was just getting a drink, actually. Coca-Cola for this evening. Because it is boiling hot right now. So, Mir, DNF again.
Yeah, Suzuki not having it their own way at the moment. It's been a real struggle since they announced that they were leaving MotoGP at the end of the season, with Mir crashing out again, like Lewis said earlier, pretty much at the same time as Pecco, and Rins not taking part due to, I can't remember what it was due to. He had some big crashes, and that was it. His weekend was over, really. And I think a lot of people were hoping Gintoli would stand in, but that didn't happen, sadly.
Gintoli. Were you hoping for that, Lewis?
Yeah, I mean, I like Silva and Gintoli, and it was already, at the track of BT Sports. It would have been perfect for them, but it's been pretty disastrous, not only just for Suzuki, but for Joan Mir and his hope of getting a ride. I mean, it's crazy to think about the fact that the 2020 world champion is trying his hardest to get a ride, and I think he's almost overriding the bike at this point, and is pushing way too hard, and it's just causing crash after crash after crash. But yeah, it's not looking good for Joan Mir. There's still some options from next year, which we'll get into a bit later, but his teammate Alex Rins, there was nothing he could have done. I mean, he was in agony with that wrist that he broke in the crash with Takaki Nakagami at Catalunya. So yeah, there's nothing he could have done. Sometimes it's better not riding than riding with an injury and being right at the back. I mean, at least then he has better results on paper whenever he's finishing races. So by the end of the season, he can hopefully...
This could be the start of some...
It's not what they're wanting, and it's... For Joan Mir, yeah, as we said, it was practice at the same time. It's so easy to do as well. Maybe I just got caught, but yeah, it's pretty disastrous, to be honest. There's nothing else we can say.
So what does it mean for the future then, Luke?
Well, for the future, obviously, I don't think... Obviously, Suzuki will want to do well this year, but it won't affect their future. They're off. They're out of MotoGP. But for the two riders, it's definitely... They need to work on their consistency to keep... Well, they will keep rides in MotoGP for next season. I'm confident they'll both still be there on the grid. But it's the place of where there's been rumours of Mir to Repsol Honda, which has gone very quiet in recent weeks. So that either means that a deal has fallen through, or the deal is done and it just hasn't been announced yet. And then there's also rumours of Rins to LCR or Rins to RNF Aprilia, because there are still satellite seats and competitive satellite seats available for both riders.
Okay. Let us know what you think, if you have any opinion on this, or maybe you know something that we don't. Perhaps it could be possible. Then let us know. Hashtag Motorsport Radio on the old socials. We're even on TikTok as well. And no, I don't dance on it. But I could. No. So anyway, yeah, let us know what you think. Is Mir out the door? Where should he go? Do you care? I don't know. Let us know. Honda. Luke, what's going on there then?
Well, it's a case of, with Honda, it's nothing's really going on really for them. They're not getting points. It's none of their riders brought in a single point, and they had obviously the full four riders out there, with Bradl at his home race being the only rider to finish in 16th. And he came out in the press the other day and actually slammed Honda, which he's normally quite quiet being a test rider, but I think he's almost had enough with the bikes that they've been making, which aren't sort of up to scratch for the other riders. He posted a picture on social media as well where the bike actually burnt his foot through his boot, so that was a nasty thing for Bradl to ride through. But yeah, Nakagami is pretty much crashing himself out of LCR Honda as he crashed again this weekend. Didn't take anyone out this time though, so that's an improvement. Pol Espargaro pulled out of the race because he picked up an injury throughout the weekend. 2 heavy crashes into turn 1, and Alex Marquez, as I mentioned earlier, his ride height device failed. So Honda just can't seem to do anything right at the moment without Marc Marquez.
Yeah, they're definitely going through a bit of a bad patch
crisis,
and yeah, that growing talk and grumblings, which is unlike bike fans, about there being just too many, especially this season where we've seen so many technical failures, electronic type failures. Too much potentially. I know it's always an ongoing grievance and grumble from a lot of people that maybe there is now too much technology and it's starting to detract from the racing, especially when that technology goes wrong and that ends somebody's race, for example. I mean, GPS still being the funniest one yet. But anyway, what do you think, Lewis?
Yeah, I somewhat agree with that, to be honest. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's electronics necessarily. I mean, it's the ride height devices and the wings that I would say are probably deteriorating from the racing the most, especially the ride heights. I mean, it's the newest addition to the MotoGP technology, and it looks like ever since we've seen failures like Maverick Vinales this weekend, where he could have got a podium, his first ever podium with Aprilia, and then he had that ride height issue. But and the wings themselves, I mean, some of them are starting to create dirty air, so it's making it harder for riders to follow, almost similar to what we see in F1, which is really not the route that we want to go down with 20-second victories, 30-second victories, just because bikes can't follow each other. But I think it's going to get to the point where all the manufacturers are going to need to have a meeting and discuss what they need to get rid of and what they're all finally getting rid of, and almost make a compromise with the motorcycles. Otherwise, it's going to get to the point where it's going to really, really create bad racing, I think. I mean, I think there's already a couple of manufacturers which aren't too happy with having ride height devices, especially Suzuki, of course, being the last manufacturer to implement it because they didn't really believe in it. But yeah, I think it's going to get to the point where we're going to start getting larger and larger margins if we don't start to do something. Start maybe just to get rid of one or two things each season.
Yeah, it will take a while to get them all out, as Lewis said, of going through it season by season. I know MotoGP are running like a fan survey thing at the moment where you can have your say on what you want different, and it just seems like they're looking at different race formats, like sprint races and things, they're trying to go to F1 route when really they're trying to bring in higher TV audiences, which makes sense, but yet they're not trying to make the riders sort of celebrities, if that makes sense, because really the biggest rider celebrity is Valentino Rossi, and he's gone now, and really the next biggest name is Marc Marquez, but not every motorbike fan knows that name, unlike Valentino, which is a harsh reality MotoGP are in at the moment.
It wasn't always, I mean, yeah, I know what you mean, obviously. The Rossi legend will still live on. The more people know about Rossi than know that he's actually retired around the world, I would suggest, just because he is still a household name, and he was probably, for a long time, MotoGP's only household name. But Marc Marquez, as you say, probably comes second closest to it. Have you filled in have you submitted your thoughts to Dorna and the MotoGP? No,
I don't think it will get listened to, in all honesty. So they'll do what they want to do. And
okay, well, what would you say though if you were filling it? I don't even know what the questions are, to be honest. I mean,
I'm not too aware. I didn't even bother looking at it. But
I'll have a look. But Lewis, what would you, if there was to be any particular changes, any grievance or gripe that you've got about MotoGP, or what sort of direction it should go in the future? 3 things from you that MotoGP could change to improve the show.
3. Certainly, ride height devices is the main one, in my opinion, that need to get rid of. Although I got into MotoGP and my love for MotoGP grew because of the little technical advances that teams make just to get 1/10 of a second. It's starting to get to the point where it's having the opposite effect. It's just creating bad racing. So I think they need to go, and I'm not against wings because we've had wings for quite a few years and there's been some great races since the introduction of wings. But it's certainly getting to the point where they're almost becoming too big, and there needs to be some sort of limit maybe on the surface area of the wings, or just how much downforce they can really produce. There needs to be something to not create an effect of like dirty air and have it like we had in 2017-18, where it was wings, but they weren't massive and in your face.
Okay. I've just found the fan survey that was launched today. The world's fastest. Yeah, it's run by Motorsport Network, who have had recent similar success advising or helping advise Formula One and IndyCar and stuff. And they're, I suppose, collaborating with Dorna. Shall I fill one in now? No, I shouldn't. What are they asking for again? I can't really see that. There's Carmelo is listening to the views of all the fans. Yada yada. I'll probably fill that in later. But head over there, MotoGP.com website if you didn't know, and there's the link from I think 12 hours or something ago. And Dorna and Motorsport Network launch global MotoGP fan survey. Have your say. Be part of the world's largest MotoGP survey. Should there be sprint races? Or should there be more bigger wings? Or should MotoGP just be free to air and actually advertised on TV? No offense, BT Sport. I know it was on ITV4, but nobody told me, and a lot of people. But I definitely think that would be a good way to go. Definitely. Anyway, just before we move on and keep talking about other stuff, incidentally, I did have this fact up my sleeve lined up for yesterday, but then we didn't have any internet yesterday. Thanks, EE. Pricks. On this day, yesterday, in 2008, the British Grand Prix at Donington was held, and in the 125 class, Scott Redding won his first Grand Prix. Quick question for you both. Who else was on that podium?
Dovizioso?
No, this is 125. Dovi would have been in MotoGP at the time.
I'm guessing, I'm hearing, I don't know.
Marc Marquez, maybe?
Marc Marquez was third on the podium. And Mike DiMeglio was second.
Mike DiMeglio.
And also in that particular race, Nakagami, Sandro Cortese, Brad Smith, he was 10th. Who was Jules Cluzel, he was in 16th. Agata, Domi Agata. He was also in the race. DNF from the race was Iannone, remember him? Stefan Bradl, and also was going to be in the race, but he didn't complete the first lap or didn't start the race. Danny Webb as well.
In that race, Scott became the youngest ever Grand Prix winner at a time as well, and that stayed until 2019.
Yes, that's right. So there you go. That was exactly how many years is it? A lot of years ago, in 2008, almost to the day. Scott Redding. 14. Yes, that's right. So there you go. Interesting fun fact for you there, kids. Be interesting to see who in Moto 3 today, in 14 years' time, where they'll be. Don't know. Just thought I'd have a little check on the old stats there, going back. Continuing talking a little bit about Honda and the wider, I suppose, discussion, really, LCR. Did we mention actually regarding Toprak, talking about what he's been up to, Luke?
No, we haven't mentioned about Toprak yet, but yeah, Toprak has been out on an M1 Yamaha at Aragon with Cal Crutchlow. He's been trying out the the Yamaha MotoGP bike for the first time, and while it seems that Toprak won't be going to Yamaha in MotoGP in the future, it will definitely be a good sort of idea for him to feel how a MotoGP bike works compared to a Superbike, because they will be drastically different, as he said in his press release. So it'd be good for him to get his eye in on how the bike works, and to have someone as experienced as Cal Crutchley there with him would probably have been a good help as well.
Yeah, it's we know now that he's almost certainly not going to be in that number one option for them, Lewis, but he'd be a good super sub, wouldn't he?
Yeah, it would almost do it. Garrett Gerloff did at Valencia. I mean, just do a couple of sessions, even if it was just a Friday like Garrett did. Gareth, I mean, he's a great rider, and throughout the test, I believe he only did about 6 lap runs, but in that he's obviously learnt a lot, and I think he was most surprised actually with the way the carbon fibre brake worked. So it took quite a long time for him to get used to that. So yeah, he was next to the best person in Cal Crutchlow for that test. We don't know anything about lap times or what tyres they were on or anything like that. It was a pretty privately run test. I personally didn't know anything about it until after the day is finished. But yeah, I think it would be a great sub. And although Yamaha have clearly stated he's not coming to MotoGP, especially next year, there's no place for him. I do definitely think he deserves a shot at some point in the future.
It looks like, especially from what Keenan, his manager, was saying, it looks like he's going to be talking to other manufacturers as well. So I imagine the Ducatis and the Hondas will be getting spoken to, and potentially even Aprilia with how they're progressing.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how it would work on a Ducati and even a Honda. I mean, I think if you went to Honda, it would be a very, very interesting challenge, especially if his riding style is. And I don't think the bike would tolerate it too much, to be honest, with the way the Hondas look at it. It's not looking good, as we were saying earlier. But the Ducati would probably be the best bike for him to go on, although it's completely different from his Yamaha that he rides. He has so many riders that he'll be able to talk to and be able to learn and develop off. I mean, if he went to Aprilia, he would still have some great riders like Alessio Spargaro and Maverick Vinales and whoever's in that RNF team next year to be able to discuss and develop himself as a MotoGP rider. But the Ducati definitely seems the best. I mean, the testing time and the amount of development and other riders that he'll be able to talk to would just be like no other. So I definitely think if he's going to MotoGP, if he wants to make that step, which it seems that it's the next step for him. I mean, it seems that almost he doesn't have a mentality of winning world championships and world superbikes for the rest of his career. He's made that pretty clear that now he's looking maybe to win one more and then hopefully come off the Grand Prix. So Ducati, yeah, I would say is personally the best place for him to go.
Go on.
He said in his press release about how he found the M1 drastically faster from the Superbike. So I'd be interested to hear his thoughts if he got on the Ducati MotoGP bike to see how that felt compared, because that's a fair bit faster down a straight line still than the Yamaha. So that would be interesting to hear his thoughts.
Cool. All right. Well, Lewis, what's this regarding... Now, I've not been keeping up to date on all the rumour mills on who might be going where and who's doing what. And often it's silly season. I guess we're in the deep end of it, potentially. Or maybe it's not silly season. Maybe it's a realistic thing that might actually happen. But either way, I've been kind of busy doing other stuff and not been paying too much attention about all the gossip. So tell me then, Rins linked to LCR potentially, and Mir might be, or he's been linked to, or someone said something about him maybe going to Repsol Honda.
Yeah, I mean, the Repsol Honda, as Luke said earlier with Johan Mir, was something that was quite a big rumour a couple of months back, and since then nothing's really been mentioned about it. I mean, even the official MotoGP journalists were asking Joan Mir for MotoGP.com if he was going to Honda or if he was speaking to Honda, and he didn't really have a straight answer for it. So it seemed like he was in talks and he was looking for another ride, and it would be an interesting switch up, shall we say. I mean, it would give Marc Marquez a run for his money, but I think it would be quite unfair for Paul Espargaro to get the boot already. I mean, I think Paul has done a perfect job as the number 2 rider, and it almost added to the rumour whenever, I think it was Jerez, he was told, rumours were going about that he was told that he wasn't getting the ride the next year, but nothing's really been said on the Repsol Honda front in about a month's time, so no one really knows what's happening with that. And probably the biggest 2 stories lately, and one of them actually being the most confusing, was Miguel Oliveira, the RNF Aprilia team for next year, because he was pictured about 2 weeks ago with the Gresini Ducati going into the back of their garage, and then rumours properly started arising that he was going to sign for them, and this was being announced, and then there was something said that he was going to have his own press conference at the last round, and Gresini also put up on their social media that they had an announcement the next day. But then that time came, and then Miguel Oliveira put up on social media basically saying all of the press conference stuff was lies and I wasn't planning one, and that Gresini, their announcement was a biography on Fausto Gresini, which was a nice touch, but it was certainly not what everyone was expecting. So I think everyone kind of got a bit confused about that, and now it's looking like RNF Aprilia is going to be where he's going to end up. But obviously it's still just rumours, and Rins was meant to be in talks with LCR Honda, which after Honda's run and what's happening, it would be quite I would say personally a last choice for me if I was riding a MotoGP bike to go to LCR Honda. But then it looks to who would he be replacing, whether that be Alex or Takaki Nakagami, because Honda look like they want to have a Japanese rider in that squad, whether that be Ayagura or Chantra or even Nakagami, if he can pick up a rain of results. But right now it's looking like the Moto2 riders are the best option, so it's going to be really interesting to see, and especially with Rins, where he's going to want to go, and if he does want to go with that LCR squad.
Your thoughts, Luke?
As Lewis was saying about Mir to Repsol Honda, it's a confusing one really, because all the talks had him going there, the journalists had him going there. I mean, myself as well. I thought he'd be there. It would be announced by now, especially this weekend. We're going into the summer break, but nothing's come yet. And he said that he would be privileged to be Marquez's teammate and ride the Repsol Honda. So can't help but think that a deal has already been signed for him to say things like that to the media. So we'll wait and see if anything's announced over the summer break. But Rins as well with LCR. I've heard rumours as well RNF Aprilia are talking to Rins, so that'll be an interesting one, having him and Oliveira together. But as Lewis said, LCR Honda would be your last choice at the moment. It seems like Agura will probably end up going there to replace Nakagami, because he's just not having a good season out of it this year. But who would replace Alex Marquez would be the LCR, because it appears like he would be on his way as well. But that would be the big question at the moment, because it looks like Oliveira again, as Lewis said. Gresini, it seemed set. It was set in stone. He was doing a press conference. Gresini were doing an announcement at the same time, which almost seemed a little bit too like there was something more to it than just a book at the time. Yeah. And it looks like a deal may have fallen through between them with the approachment of Aprilia, which I did see a lot of people commenting, being quite disrespectful to the thing of Fausto Gresini's, like the book being announced, and it just didn't sit right with me at the time. But it may have been a coincidence, but there probably was more to it that we'll never know.
From a PR person's point of view, it's better to, if you've announced an announcement, it's better to put some sort of announcement out rather than to withdraw the announcement, leading to even more speculation. And the most obvious thing would have been, now whether that was ever, a pre-planned announcement and it was just purely coincidental to match someone else's proposed announcement, I don't know. Maybe someone in the paddock might know better.
The thing is, though, with Oliveira, it's the thing of he has a good two great choices in bikes, Aprilia and Ducati. They're both competitive, but I guess maybe the deal might have fallen through if he wasn't offered a factory spec Ducati at Gresini, because obviously Bastianini's not on one this year. So could he have been offered a factory Aprilia over a factory Ducati, over a 2022 Ducati? It would have been. So maybe that could have been the final.
Could we conceivably see next year no Marquez riders in MotoGP on the grid?
That is it's a tough one, and I think we will see Marquez next year, and I'm not sure whether we'll see Alex.
Oh.
I think there is still a chance Alex will end up staying at LCR, which may surprise some people. But if Marc Marquez, say, can't come back, and that would be a disaster for Honda, and it would be a disaster for MotoGP because of how talented he is. But then if they bring in a new rider to the fold like Mir, and then they bring in a new rider like Agura, and then they get rid of Alex Marquez and have to replace him with someone else, and then they have to replace Marc Marquez, obviously, that would be 4 brand new riders on that bike, which wouldn't be great for their development and their season. So maybe for just some sort of guidance in that season, they'd have to keep Alex Marquez in that scenario.
Lewis?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And also, Marc Marquez, he's going to want his brother to have a nice ride at the end of the season, and going to want his brother to have a ride, which really is what all speculation and all basically everyone was saying the paddock was that Alex Marquez didn't deserve a Repsol Honda seat whenever he had it in 2020. And in my opinion, 2020 Alex Marquez showing everyone wrong. I mean, he got podiums on that bike. He really impressed me. He was fighting for victories in a couple of races. And since then, especially this radically new bike, which I thought was going to suit all the other riders, so did the riders, to be honest, going into it. It's ever since he changed up the bike, and even last season, actually, Alex Marquez, he just got in a string of crashes and he's not managed to get out of it yet. I mean, it's going to be a tough time for Alex Marquez. I think his only saving grace is going to be maybe an injury can help him out with his brother maybe not returning, as Luke said. I mean, I think if all goes right, I don't know where Alex Marquez is going to go, especially if Rins goes to LCR, he's going to need a saving grace. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing as well, because you look over, you could say, okay, he'll go to World Superbikes, but then you look at the effort they're doing over there with Chevy Vieja and Lecuona. He's not going to replace either of those as it stands. They're doing a brilliant job. And then you have to look at the MIE Honda bike, which isn't doing as good a job with Mikado and Hafiz Sirene. So I couldn't see him there. And you look in the championship, and Alex Marquez is 18th. He's very low down compared to where you'd expect him to be. But then Nakagami's only 16th.
Yeah, when you're doing your, not quite your favourite rider.
No, but then Nakagami's only 16th and Pole's only 15th. Marquez is the top Honda, and he's missed quite a few rounds this season.
Okay, well, let us know your thoughts if you're tuned in on the Superbike Show here on Motorsport Radio. Let us know. Is Rins potentially looking at a seat at LCR next year? Is Mir going to replace maybe Marquez at Repsol? Top Cat, would he be a good super sub maybe for Yamaha? And will Oliveira end up at the RNF Aprilia? Let us know your thoughts on all of those. And maybe if you've heard any rumours, or you know someone whose sister's cousin's uncle is an old mechanic of someone in the GP paddock, then let us know. That's exactly the sort of stuff that we need to know about, all the inside gossip, third hand. There we go. Right, so let's move on, shall we? So Moto 2, and a decent performance, certainly by Lowe's at the weekend.
Yeah, it's great to say that Sam Lowe's was back on the podium. I'm a big fan of Sam, and he's been on a real run of awful form, and it just seemed like he needed just a finish in the points to get that confidence back, and got a good third place, battling with Pedro Acosta, who had been in good form as well before his injury, and could have claimed a second place. Obviously started on pole, and I think Sam will be over the moon with a podium, and going into Assen, a track which has suited Sam Lowe's throughout his career, will only improve him further, I believe.
Lewis?
Yeah, I mean, Sam Lowe's, he had a great battle all race, and towards especially that last corner, going into the last corner, I thought he was going to end up crashing because he made contact with Pedro Acosta in what was an incredible battle. And as I said at the start of the show, it was the highlight of the race, in my opinion. All race, they were just chopping and changing, and it was ruthless. But in part, firmly, Sam Lowe's, he was content with that podium. He just said that's exactly what he needed. He just needed some points, and to get that podium, and really to get that confidence back inside his head. And yeah, I love the way Sam Lowe's goes about it. He's a family man. He's go happy, and he's got a bad season so far, and it's really bringing the media to speculate on where he's going to be, which even myself, I don't know where he's going to be, and I don't think he necessarily knows just yet where he's going to be himself next season, because he is on a tall bike and having results that he's been getting so far, and I think he's crashed out of majority of the last few races. I mean, some of it, of course, not being his fault, but quite a few times, like Catalonia, it was just him pushing too hard and crashing out. So it's really going to be a question of when his time is out, when his time's up, because obviously he's not the youngest rider, and the Grand Prix paddock in the past couple of seasons have just been leaning towards these younger riders. And then, yeah, you've really got a question where Sam Lowe's is going to go, so he really needs to pick up those results, and hopefully towards Aston he can get another podium and even a win.
Yeah, just picking up on what Lewis was just saying about Sam. Before the race, there was talk from Neil Hodgson about Sam Lowe's future, and apparently Sam, before the podium, his opinion might have changed now, but he was getting a little bit fed up being a Moto2, because he knows he's never going to get to MotoGP now. He's too old for that opportunity to come around. And when he did get that opportunity, it wasn't a good bike, wasn't a good package. So he sort of seemed a little bit fed up with Moto2. Obviously, opinions will change, but there's the thing as well of the team. And the Mark VDS racing team in Moto2 have always been a winning team and only want winners on their bikes. But they took a punt by taking Sam in the first place after a bad season, I think, on a KTM chassis at the time. And potentially we'll keep him on for next season, especially if anything happens with Arbolino towards MotoGP. But I think Sam will stay for next season in that team.
Lewis, would you like Lowe's to stay maybe in the as is now? Would he do another year, and would you like that, or maybe I don't know, what would you have Sam Lowe's do next year?
Yeah, if I had the choice, I would keep it in Moto2 just for 1 year. I want him just to get a proper crack at the championship with no stupid costly mistakes. I mean, we've seen in 2020 him battling the championship right to the last round, but he did have that injury with his wrist that just held him back, and he also crashed at Valencia, which got rid of some valuable points. And without that, I do think he could have at least attempted the championship at the final round and properly took it to the line with just points to spare. I mean, I think next year, if Sam Lowe's stays in Moto2, which I hope he does, he gets one last crack at the championship and then maybe heads off to somewhere like World Superbikes and joins his brother.
Yeah, I think that might be what Neil was almost leaning towards, saying that Sam might be looking towards the World Superbike paddock in the future.
Maybe. BSB. Why not? No?
No.
What's wrong with BSB?
I just don't see Sam making... I don't see Sam doing that now. I see why Scott Redding did it at the time, because
he could literally nowhere else to go.
Yeah, but he was also younger than Sam is now, so he had the opportunity to still go into the World Superbike paddock or potentially get back to MotoGP. But Sam, I'm not sure how old he is. I want to say he's potentially 32 now. I might be wrong. I might be aging him, might be making him a little bit younger. But yeah, I think his time's running out, and an extra year in Moto2, like Lewis said, would do him good. And then World Superbikes potentially.
Okay. I still think BSB would be a good place for him. But let us know your thoughts. Get in touch, have your say. Add it in the comments box wherever you're tuned in. It's Motorsport Radio, the Superbike show. And we're currently talking about Moto2. Although whilst you guys have been talking away, I've actually just been filling in the MotoGP fan survey. And run by Nielsen, MotoGP, Dorna, and the Motorsport Network as well. And I'm currently just going through some of the options here. Which of the following best describes me? MotoGP is my favourite sport, and I follow them most close. Oh God, difficult questions. Anyway, let's not answer that right now. But yeah, fill that in and literally let MotoGP know your thoughts. And I think we're going to all be very sensible about it and not do what F1 fans did and basically ruin F1 when they did a fan survey by adding bloody sprint races and all sorts of crap and stuff like that and yada yada back there. But I'm over that, I promise. So yeah, I'm just saying sometimes these fan surveys can go the wrong way, and often fans come up with a load of nonsense that yeah. Anyway, I mean, if it was up to the fans, Valentino Rossi would still be racing, wouldn't he? Exactly. So, just saying. Anyway, rant over. Yeah, so stay with Moto2 then, Luke. And well, Fernandez, he was doing all right, wasn't he?
Massive understatement. He was on another level compared to everyone else in Moto2. What was it? A 7.7 second gap back to his teammate. He was on third place on the grid. He'd been strong all weekend, and obviously there was that little bit of British hope inside me before the race that Sam would convert it from pole. But I think everyone sort of knew that the pace Fernandez had been carrying all weekend would definitely be unstoppable, and it was in the end. And Red Bull KTM must be happy with that, and he's potentially building the championship challenge with Vietti crashing out, and with there being a potential tech-free seat available for next season. Could he be another name for the MotoGP silly season going around?
Yeah, I mean, he was highly impressive. His performance throughout the race, he just looked like on another level compared to everyone else. Straight away, I mean, you just seen whenever he's sitting behind riders, he just found any way past them, and it was mainly turn 3. And once he got that confidence to pass one or two riders at turn 3, he was just on a roll. And then from there, he just got away at the front and just stormed off and left everyone else in the dust. I mean, no one could believe it, I don't think. I personally could. I would watch that on the Monday after being at Knockhill, and I couldn't believe the performance that he put in. It was a great result, and it's exactly what we want to see from these younger riders. And he's not been in Moto2 for that long, so it's great. It's great seeing that he's finally getting results and finally showing his true pace. And I think the KTM team will be happy in general, because of course Acosta came home in second place with that battle that we just spoke about. And Marcel Schroeter, of course, at his home race, coming home in fourth place. Each time I see Marcel Schroeter at the front, I get a big smile on my face, because he's been in Moto2 longer than I can remember. I think I looked and it was 2013 or 2012 that he came into the class. He's just been here getting race after race, getting results. He's still doing it now, so each time I see him up front, it's great to see. And yeah, Vietti crashing out is a blow to his championship charge. I mean, I couldn't actually believe it. Even though I was watching catch up, I managed to keep away from social media. And the fact that he's managed to crash out, it's a big blow to his championship. It's going to be a real, this weekend, asset. It's going to be to see how he approaches it, whether he has to realise maybe he has to go all out for wins, or if it's still just get points in the bag, just get maybe 10th, 8th place, just to get some points, or if this is going to change his mentality at all. But yeah, it was a great race and dominant performance from Fernandez.
Yeah, another rider to shout out is another Spaniard, Aaron Canet. He only finished 9th place, but when you look at how the build-up to this race went for him, it had not been great. He'd been involved in a car crash, and a very big car crash by the looks of it. And Aaron Canet must be the toughest man on that grid, because he's been out there. He had a broken arm earlier in the season as well, and yeah, he's still going out there and claiming points when Vietti isn't.
Yeah, he's just getting valuable points in, and it was a great ride from him. Ayogura getting 8th place, it's still a good result. Maybe it's not what he was wanting, because even whenever Ayogura is on the podium, he's still not happy until he wins. I mean, he has some mentality on him, but yeah, it was a pretty good race. I mean, and one person who slightly disappointed me was Jake Dixon, finishing in 11th place, which isn't what he wanted, and he's definitely looking to come back stronger in Assen. I mean, he's not happy with the race pace, and I think he had issues with the bike and some vibrations with the bike that just made him slightly uncomfortable throughout the whole weekend. So it might have just been not necessarily his pace, but just his confidence on the actual motorcycle that he was struggling with.
Yeah, it was a radical change of form for Jake Dixon from Catalonia, where he was 4th place across the line, to 11th place in the Saxon ring, and he was beaten by his teammate Albert Arenas, which doesn't happen a lot while they're racing together. It doesn't seem like they get along well, so their rivalry was probably fueled even more. But it was a weird weekend from Jake, and hopefully he can come back at Assen.
Yeah, hopefully he can.
Yeah, certainly it was a bit of a weird one when I was accidentally tuned into ITV4, because they never said it was on. Never told me, but I won't go on about it. Yeah, it was just weird seeing the other Brit up in like 2nd place, as he was at the time anyway, Lowe's, and yeah, just hopefully he'll come back anyway, Dixon, and next race, and do some good stuff like he's capable of doing. So what else are we talking about? Yeah, we've also we have already touched on Pedro Acosta as well. He, if you don't know, broke his left leg, Luke, apparently in a training accident, and he's had a successful operation today, but no idea on recovery time though. So
yeah, nothing has been officially said yet. We'll probably know more in coming weeks, because it's been it's been a very quick turnaround from it being announced yesterday that it happened. The surgery was today, and I think the accident happened on Tuesday. So in the space of 3 days, it's all been very quick moving for Pedro, and it's a real shame really, because he's broken his femur, and it was a multi-fragmental fracture that he'd done, which doesn't sound very good for the reigning Moto3 champion, but fingers crossed he'll be back soon, because he was building up some serious form, and it would be a shame for him to come back and have to restart again.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I mean, it's not what he was wanting, and it's going to be real interesting whenever he does get back on track, how long it's going to be until he's 100%, because motorcycle racers, they don't return whenever they're 100%. They return whenever they're 95 or near enough ready to full fitness. So whenever he does come back, it's going to be interesting just to see how long and how many rounds this is going to take him to build back up. Because whenever you're riding a bike, you do use your legs quite a lot. Even leaning into the corners, you subconsciously use your outside leg to then push the bike down almost. And obviously you need that flexibility in your leg while leaning over. And the lean angles that now we're getting in Grand Prix, flexibility in your whole body is becoming more and more apparent. So it's not even just building up that strength in his leg that he needs now. It's properly building up good flexibility so he'll be able to be back to his normal form. Because I also read during the week that he was offered a Honda ride in MotoGP, but he turned it down, and as he wanted to spend another year in Moto2. He clearly has his head, he turned it down himself, so he clearly has his head firmly on his shoulders and knows what he's capable of, which is great to see.
Well,
I think that was the right decision, in all honesty. We've seen it happen before with people like Joe Roberts turning down the Aprilia ride when that bike still wasn't there, and I think Bezecchi did the same as well, and he's doing well now on the Ducati, so they both made the right decision. So hopefully Pedro has as well, and Honda don't return next year with an absolute weapon that he'll regret not being on.
I would have took it. Snatched their hand off.
Why?
Well, simply for the fact that you don't know what's round the corner, and you might have the rest of your career plagued by injuries. I really hope he isn't, but certainly nothing's guaranteed. You got to just take any opportunity. Maybe he had a better opportunity to stay and do stuff for next year or whatever. But yeah. Anyway, it's done apparently. What do you make of it? If you tuned in, was he right to turn that offer down or not? I don't know. Let us know. Get in touch. Have your say. How outraged are you? Would you have took it? But that's just me. I don't know. I mean, it's a bit like Lewis, I suppose. If you're racing at the Knockhill Scottish Motor Racing Club and you've got an offer to go and race in, I don't know, so let's say Talent Cup or something, and you turn it down because you really want to have a good season up at Knockhill in Scotland. A bit of a different comparison, yes, but some people might call you crazy to turn a potential opportunity like that down. Just saying. You don't have to answer that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can it depends. You can look at it from both standpoints and think that it's a MotoGP ride, why aren't you taking it? But it's also the fact that right now the bike is looking awful, and you've seen it with, for example, Sam Lowe's, the fact that he's went to MotoGP and been on an atrocious bike, and then now he's back in Moto2 for almost the rest of his career, and it doesn't look like he's going to get another opportunity.
Yeah, it was like with Tom Luthi as well. Speaking of other talents who've gone up and been, and that was a Honda as well. Like Luthi jumped on, and that was a dog at the time, and only Marquez could ride it. So it could either be that he's dodged a bullet by getting on a bad bike and ruining his MotoGP future, or it could be that he's missed out on a very good ride. It could go either way, and only time will tell.
Schrodinger's bike. You don't know till you actually do it, do you? Anyway, Moto 3 now, and yeah, that was an interesting one, wasn't it? With the old Scott Ogden crashing out in Moto 3. Tell us more, Luke.
Yeah, it was sad to see Scott crash out. He was running solidly inside the top 10, and it almost looked like his eye line was taken by Dennis Onchu making one of his kamikaze moves in front of Scott, and then it just went wrong from there, and Scott just got high-sided out of the race, and I think he may have collected Bertelle, or his bike may have collected Bertelle at the same time, because they crashed at the same corner, and it was a nasty one for the both of them, and hopefully they're both okay. And Scott seemed all right in his interview after and said he'll be there for Assen, so that's good news.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty big high side, especially for a Moto3 bike from Scott Ogden. I mean, it's flipped into the moon, and it's not what you want to see. I mean, especially if they hit the gravel, it just barrel rolled them. And Bertelle got really, really unlucky with it just getting collected. There was nothing he could have done. But yeah, once again, we've seen quite an aggressive move from Dennis Onchen. I mean, it was a questionable move at the end. And I think also it was it caused the crash as well. There was quite a lot of commotion just that one corner, that one lap. So it's not what he's going to want. But it looks like Scott, it's not affecting him too much. I mean, he's kind of almost just shrugging it off. I've seen on social media he's just looking forward to next year and just completely forgetting that happened, which is the perfect attitude really to have.
Yeah, his teammate as well didn't have it all his own way. Josh Watley this weekend as well. He sadly had to pull into the pits after suffering from pain. So hopefully Josh is all right. And it's only been a week since then for Assen race when that comes around. So hopefully no ill effects from that, and he'll be able to complete the Dutch Grand Prix and get some more experience under his belt.
Yeah, indeed. I've not seen his social media since the weekend, so I don't know his latest update. I will try and check it out to see if or what he's said about it. But Other stuff coming out of the other big talking points from that Moto 3 race at the weekend, Luke?
I mean, if you want to stick with the Brits, we have John Mcphee as well, who had been doing well all weekend, really. And sadly, his race was just ruined in turn one. There was a move made by Carlos Tatai into the first corner on the first lap, a little bit Nakagami-esque from Catalonia, and he ended up pushing John off the track, wiped Ricardo Rossi out of the race, and a few other people got sent wide because of it. I think Mino was also another one of the ones who was put wide because of it, and really John was out in the gravel, and he had to come back onto the track and made his way up to 19th, which is respectable, but it was an opportunity for John to get good points and build some good consistency to his season, which has been plagued by injury.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost a kamikaze Takanakagami style move. And I believe Tatai did get penalised in the end, which is bringing some questionability to the consistency of penalties given. But yeah, it was not what John McPhee was wanting. But just like Scott Ogden, I did read that he also has some positives from the weekend. Just the fact that his consistency for his race pace is up there and he's happy with it. And he also got to work quite a lot with used tyres on his bike. So he's took some positives, and it's almost like he's just struggling off once again. I mean, he did make up to 19th, as you just said there. So it's clearly showing that maybe the old John McPhee's back, which, as we discussed in previous shows, his future is maybe looking like World Super Sport. So he needs to start getting results, try getting a top team, because it's not been the season that he's wanted. And then, as you said, plagued by injuries. So it's not been a good weekend for the Brits in Moto3. So I think now that we're at Assen, which is, it's not too far from Britain, so they can almost class it as somewhat of a home round. I mean, it's going to be big crowds. I'm sure a lot of British people is going to be out there at Assen. So just try and enjoy it, and enjoy a good weekend at Assen, which usually produces some close racing, all classes actually. So I think next weekend we're not going to see like we've seen at Germany, and that is a runaway victory from Guevara, which just looked absolutely unstoppable.
Yeah, going back to what you just said about Brits in Assen, I think I read earlier it was 2019 in the British Talent Cup that Josh Watley won around Assen. So he'll have good memories from there, and hopefully that will help him. But yeah, Isan Guevara, it was the same as the two other winners in the two other classes. He was untouchable. There was nobody who had the same pace as him or could go with him, and he just broke the field, which in Moto3 is a bit of a rarity, but around a Saxon ring, the rider makes a difference compared to the bike, and Guevara was just prepared to put it all on the line to try and catch his teammate who was down in third. So it looks like it's going to be a Gas-Gas-Aspar fight for the Moto3 title this season.
Yeah, it does. I mean, the Gas boys are just looking so strong. 1-2 right now in the championship. The championship's starting to close up between the two Gas boys, and I don't actually know what the latest on the championship standing is, but it's definitely closer than what it was a couple of rounds ago. I mean, I'm just looking at now, and yes, Garcia leads by just 7 points, so it's getting closer as the season progresses. And I think we're going to get just a two-way fight, and it's going to be real interesting to see how that dynamic in the garage changes, if it changes, because I do believe they get along pretty well. So as the championship starts getting closer on, will there be a bit of almost Valentino Rossi and Jorge Lorenzo style, don't tell the other side of the garage anything? So it's going to be really interesting to see how they progress, because it looks like at Catalonia, Des Foggia having the bike issue, that his championship's over. It looks like it's just Gas are the only two people that can win championship, both the riders.
The thing is, though, when you look at them and sort of going off Moto3 a little bit of it, they're most likely both of them are going to go up to Moto2 next year by the look of things. Does that mean Jake Dixon and Albert Arenas' riders are in jeopardy if these two boys come straight through into the Aspar Moto2 team?
Yeah, It's a tricky one, especially on Jake Dixon's part, because with him being a Brit, and Brits usually come to Grand Prix slightly later than the Spaniards and Italians, just with the system that we have in place. But his age isn't on his side, as we mentioned earlier. the MotoGP and the whole Grand Prix paddock in general is just leaning towards these younger riders, these younger talents, that maybe Albert Arenas does have a bit more on his side, but almost Jake Dixon's almost a similar position to Sam Lowe's, that if he doesn't start getting results soon, he needs to maybe look elsewhere. But I personally, I think you'll agree that Jake Dixon, there's a lot of talent there, and if he could just have maybe another season on the bike on a good competitive motorcycle, that now he's learned what it's like to put the front guys. Could he fight for a championship if he was to get another year?
Yeah, I'm sure he could.
Yes. Yeah, he could, but it's the thing of Guevara will be 18 going into next season, and Garcia will be potentially 20 at the start of next season, whenever that starts. So, like Lewis was saying, age is really on those two sides, and with Aspar being a Spanish team as well, they'll be more than happy to have two Spaniards in their team. And Arenas hasn't been performing as well as they probably would have expected, him being a Moto3 champion, but we'll see when the time comes. But I think Aspar will definitely have a lot of upset this year in their garage, potentially between the two towards the latter stages, if they are both, like, I don't know, 5 points apart going into the final race or into the flyaways. There'll be some fireworks in that garage.
I've just had a quick look at how much on the. I just got distracted looking on the MotoGP website. I thought, oh wow, 60% off. That sounds like a real bargain.
It's MotoGP day, so there's quite a lot of discounts on the website at the moment with Grand Prix tickets if you're planning on going to Silverstone.
Oh, that's after the discount.
Yeah, that's a discount there.
Yeah.
Sorry. Heart attack there looking at those prices. It's almost as much as a Scottish burger at Knockhill at the weekend, but not quite. That was expensive place. 10 Scottish pounds for a Scottish burger. Yeah, anyway, sorry. No, that sounds like absolutely a fantastic offer by MotoGP. You should race over there right now and sign up. And I'm not just saying that. I am just saying that. Anyway, sorry, I got a little distracted there by some consumer affairs for you. Incidentally, just going back to Josh Watley's social media account, he posted a thing a couple of hours ago, a picture of him showing off, walking around the track, doing a track walk, if you will, with the team. So he's, when I say showing off, he was literally sort of like posing. I don't have the picture to show you right now. Or maybe I do. Him and Scott with their guns out. As is, the sun was out. Anyway.
Just in that, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean, showing off. It wasn't me just like having a dig or anything. But best of luck to Josh. Hopefully some good results on the way for you soon. Any more news, Luke, regarding Moto3?
Just have a look. I mean, there is the talent of David Munoz, who again had a decent ride for a 16-year-old, 9th place. Obviously, it's not as good as he had in Catalonia, but that is a Spanish track, and he is a Spanish rider, so he was probably always going to go well there. But to be 16 and getting 9th place in Moto3, and he looked very calm once again and experienced beyond his years. So he's definitely looking like a talent to keep an eye on, especially going into next season when he can do a full season.
Okay. And one potentially interesting comment that emerged from the weekend was regarding Rory Skinner and his potential involvement in the GP paddock. Let's cross to our Scottish correspondent, Lewis Ray, for more information.
Yeah, at the weekend on the grid, BT Sport interviewed John Hopkins, and John Hopkins obviously manages Rory Skinner and also is involved with the American racing team. And he basically just said that they're looking to have Rory Skinner maybe one or two wildcards, definitely one wildcard this season in the Moto2 class. whether that be at his home round. They're certainly looking towards his home round at Silverstone, because it would be home crowd, and it would be, well, it would just be going out to enjoy it, I would say. I mean, it's quite a tricky point talking about Rory Skinner Moto2, because he's never ridden a Moto2 bike. The closest he's been on is the Superbike that he's on, and the Yamaha R6 that he rode in Supersport, and absolutely blitzed the field there. But it's quite an interesting topic with just how his riding style would transfer to that bike, and it's been a talent that's been wanted in the Grand Prix paddock for quite a while, and now it looks like John Hopkins and the American racing team is going to finally give him that chance, really, just to prove himself to that paddock this year.
From what I hear, and I might have heard it wrong, could very well have done, but it's not. I mean, it was more of him expressing a hope and a bit of a tease that Rory might, or they're looking towards doing something, rather than saying that anything's definitely a done deal with anyone.
Nothing's confirmed or entered just yet, but it's looking highly probable to have him at least one race a season on the bike. I mean, I think it would be great, not only for Rory, but for the whole British Superbike paddock, actually, because obviously Jake Dixon's obviously made that jump up, so it may give other younger riders who are currently in British Superbikes maybe a hope that they can still have a shot on the Grand Prix bikes. But yeah, nothing confirmed just yet, and it's looking like it should. Well, Silverstone's only 2 rounds away, I believe, in August, at the start of August, so if anything's going to be announced, it's probably going to be in the summer break. So we should probably expect it at some point next month.
Silverstone, that'd be good for a Rory Skinner Moto2 appearance, Luke?
Yeah, it's happened in the past with other Brits getting chances. I think Brad Ray's had a chance there at Silverstone before Moto2, and well, if you look on the older spectrum, Bradley Smith had a go with the Petronas team a couple of years back. So it'd be great to see him on a Moto2 grid and see how he gets on a Moto2 chassis. But also, he has experience in some of the European tracks, which are later on in the season as well, like Aragon and Valencia and Misano. So I think even if he's not at Britain, I believe we should expect to see him on a Moto2 grid at some point this season. I don't think John Hopkins would announce or say that as his manager if he didn't feel very confident that it would happen. Yeah,
he obviously said that for a specific reason, one would suggest. It's usually the case. And yeah, it might be a nicely timed comment in the run-up to Silverstone, but potentially. So that'd be good to see. Whatever happens, if it's not at Silverstone, if it's somewhere else, I'm sure he'd love to dive on a bike either way. Yeah, and well, since we're talking about Rory Skinner, and we're pretty much done with the GP paddock, I think, unless there's any other points to talk about. Let's cross over to BSB, and well, Knockhill, 2 of our 3-person panel this evening was at Knockhill at the weekend, and well, saying that as though I sound like really informed, I was mostly just concentrating on the Talent Cup, really, so I didn't actually see much of what else happened elsewhere. But Lewis did. He had a eagle eye over the entire proceedings all weekend from his vantage point in the campsite. Am I right?
Yeah, the lovely campsite, great facilities at Knockhill. We were watching really from all around the tracks. The track's that small that you can just walk around it, so it's a great track to come view at. And yeah, going into the weekend, especially on the Friday, it was looking like the Catties were back again. Josh Brooks in free practice had some great laps, and Glenn Irwin as well showed some great pace, putting in top of the timesheets as well. Josh Brooks as well setting fastest lap, I think 4 laps in a row on the Friday practice. But once it actually came around to qualifying, everything changed once again. Rory Skinner had a crash in Q2 at Clark's, actually, which later on he crashed that again in the final race of the weekend. So 2 crashes at Clark's for him. And Glenn Irwin just couldn't transfer that pre-practice pace, and neither could Josh Brooks. So it ended up with quite a Yamaha-dominated field. Of course, Rory Skinner being up front, looking for his first British Superbike victory, which it looked like going into the weekend. We were going about Friday night, and we bumped into Mike Skinner, Rory Skinner's dad, and he was basically just explaining the fact that there's a lot of pressure on Rory, that there's really nothing that they can do, and put off that pressure because it's his home round and there's a lot of expectations. When you're watching the races, you could just see that expectation was there. The amount of people supporting Rory this weekend was great to see. I mean, but it wasn't just, of course, he wasn't the only home rider in the field. There was, of course, Taz McKenzie back again, second weekend back from injury, and yeah, he had quite an up and down weekend. It certainly wasn't what we'd be hoping for his home round, but Knockhill is such a physical track. I mean, it's one of the most physical tracks that we go to, and there's about 30 laps. So even going down the back straight, the riders do not get a rest. The bikes weave in on the bumps, the bikes drifting out, and even though they start finish straight, you have to stomp on that rear brake going start finish line, there's slight cracks. So it's such a physical track for these riders, and it's certainly one that Rory Skinner had a lot of pressure on, which going into race one he was hoping for. But once again, we've seen that it was Yamaha domination with Bradley Ray and Jason O'Halloran being at the front, and O'Halloran almost looking unstoppable.
Yeah, it was a pretty good weekend overall, Luke, in BSB at Knockhill.
Yeah, especially if you're a Yamaha fan, seeing the Rich Energy OMG Racing Yamaha and the McCams Yamaha fighting out for the wins again. Obviously, like Lewis said, Brad Ray was the winner in race one, which is good to see. I think we're all fans of Brad Ray here and want to see him do well. And he was very dominant in the sort of sprint style race one. And then race two, he was off the podium a little bit. Almost didn't seem to have the same pace as the front runners, but was back again in race three and challenged for the win, but couldn't beat Jason, who again is showing good form. And one thing about Jason that we haven't mentioned and didn't speak about beforehand, there's the potential that he may be doing a World Superbike wildcard at Donington with Taz. That was mentioned by Steve Rogers in after one of the races. It might have been after race three. It might have been Jason O'Halloran as well, said that he might have races coming up in between now and the next BSB round, and I think the only one that could be is World Superbikes at Donington. So it would make sense with Taz being there with a full factory World Superbike Yamaha with the McCams team, that they'd bring Jason along as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back. Has he done something? What was that? I'm sure he's done something in. I'm trying to remember.
I can't think of Jason. I'll quickly have a
the
look,
internet.
See if he has. I can't remember Jason O'Halloran ever having a World Superbike World Cup. He may have.
I don't know, to be honest. It's anything longer than 2 weeks ago.
According to Wikipedia, he's had two wild cards. He's had one wild card at the Italian round in 2018 on a Honda. So he's had like one shot, but not at his home round at a track that he properly knows.
But it doesn't look like it went well for Jason.
No.
Because he retired in race one and then didn't take part in race two.
Well, yeah, but the main point is I remembered something from years ago, and that's incredible.
Jason O'Halloran also took part in a Moto2 race as well. Getting off topic a little bit, but I didn't know that. Yeah.
I did, I think. Anyway, it'd be good to see him doing World Superbike seems to be on the rise in general when compared to MotoGP, for example. Let's not compare it to the 90s. I think World Superbike still suffers from that image that everyone compares it to the 90s, and therefore it's never going to be quite as good as from when people were younger and slimmer and better looking, and therefore nothing quite compares or beats it. But still, if you're a young person today, World Superbike, Lewis, you're young, I hear. What do you think of World Superbikes today? Oh, yeah. I mean, Lewis is younger.
Yeah, World Superbikes, it's well met expectations these past couple of years, especially with the introduction of Top Rack and when Scott Redden was up there and Bautista being up front and finally giving Jonathan Rea a challenge. I mean, it kind of got to the point almost like MotoGP was with Marc Marquez, and it was just John Ferrari dominating every single race, pretty much winning championship after championship. But now, now it's in a nice, healthy place. But they're still lacking, especially at the racetracks with fan numbers. I think it's only like 19,000 fans was at the last round for World Superbikes, which is not a lot for a world championship, to be honest.
But it's improving, I hear, from the insiders.
Yeah.
Kiko. Things are getting better in that. And coming out of COVID, of course, obviously World Superbikes is not everybody's number one choice when you're looking at which events to, save up and spend money and go to and attend. It's always going to be MotoGP. But still, it's a great event. It's a good championship right now.
Yeah, so it's definitely on the rise, and I know some people who go to MotoGP every year, normally at the British Grand Prix, and this year they've decided to go to World Superbikes instead because they're finding it more entertaining, so they'd rather go and spend the weekend at Donington.
Yeah, because they think it's going to be not as expensive as MotoGP. I mean, have you seen how much it costs to stream? Never mind. But yeah, no, generally you do get good value for money at all MSV circuits. Check it out, World Superbikes, Donington. Yes.
It'll be good.
Will be, definitely.
Taz McKenzie and Jason O'Halloran there as well, so it's an even bigger bonus.
Will we see some last-minute other wildcard riders as well?
Haslam probably will also be there, I guess.
Yeah. Brad Ray.
Since an advert
And of course, at the World Superbike round at Donington, we're also going to have the British Junior Supersport who weren't at Knockhill this weekend. So they get a nice show into the worldwide audience, and maybe some new fans can get attracted to British Superbike. So both series can really benefit off this rise that Superbike series are making with the close racing.
Would have been good to see, I think, I don't know, but it might have been good to see the Honda British Talent Cup at that event as it had been in the past at the World Superbike round. Hello, Alex tuned in to the Superbike show. Send me some information regarding 66,000 spectators descend on Mezzano, the highest event in a long time, apparently. So, yeah, let's see what Donington can produce. Should be interesting. Although whether that's 66,000 paying spectators, interesting. Still good, and it's growing. World Superbikes, and it's still a good show. But yeah, it would have just been a nice extra additional feature for the fans, maybe. For the fans, not me, because personally, because if the Honda British Talent Cup would have been at the World Superbike round. Just a missed opportunity. But anyway, as it happens, they're going to MotoGP, so I'm sure they're not bothered either way. Anyway, what was we talking about now, Lou?
BSB.
Oh yeah, BSB, that was it. Knockhill, that was it. How did we end up at Donington from Knockhill? So yeah, stuff happening, and I do have my race results. Race 1, it was, as we previously mentioned, Brad Ray won that one. Jason O'Halloran having a really, really strong weekend, finishing in second in race 1. And Rory Skinner in third. And race number 2, O'Halloran, followed by Lee Jackson and Rory Skinner in third, and Brad Ray just going off the boil a little bit. I was preoccupied during race 2 a little bit, so I didn't actually see what happened to Brad Ray, or was he just, I don't know, what was there a reason why he was only fourth? I mean, it seems great that Brad Ray finishing fourth is a bit of a disappointment now. When, last year and a couple of years ago, it would have been like, well, hey, Brad Ray's fourth. But I don't know what actually happened in race number 2, because that was the race that I was kind of busy running around doing stuff.
Yeah, race 2, it just looked like Bradley Ray didn't have the pace. It didn't look like there was any issue with him, to be honest. I mean, there was a crash that happened and it brought out the safety car, which really, going into the race in the early laps, Rory Skinner was leading, and it looked like this could be his chance to finally get his first ever British Superbike victory, but then there was a crash that brought out the safety car. And even on, I think, lap 3, I said to people around me that Rory Skinner had went too early, because it's a 30-lap race around Knockhill, and he was straight away going out the gate and just trying as hard as he can. When the safety car went in, I thought this might play in Skinner's part. Although it did eat down his lead, let him save a bit of tyre, but towards the end of the race, you could just see it. There was nothing left, especially coming out the hairpin. You could see Jason O'Halloran just going past him, coming out the hairpin and start finishing straight away. He had no tyre left, so it dropped Rory Skinner all the way down to 3rd place and destroyed the hopes of all Scots around the track, I think. But it did show that he had that pace early on, and Lee Jackson having a great result. The Kawasaki's always go good around Knockhill. I mean, think about the days with Jake Dixon and Haslam. The Kawasaki's always do good. One person who did disappoint me, I would say, across most of the weekend is Danny Buchan, who usually does pretty good at Knockhill, but this weekend had nothing really to show. A 7th in race 2, which by his standards around Knockhill, it's a pretty bad result, to be honest.
Well, in race 1, I think he was in the top 6. He might have finished 5th, I think, in race number 1.
Yeah, he got a 4th as well in race 3, but he usually gets a podium. He was still a little bit off the podium in race 3, although he was 4th. He was still a couple of seconds behind the 3rd place, so not the weekend he wanted. It looked like as well quite a few times I was watching at the hairpin that he was struggling quite a lot for his braking at the hairpin, and it was running wide quite a few times, even for practice. I mean, the best person through the hairpin had to be Rory Skinner. Rory Skinner backing it in and had the perfect line. It's his home track, and yeah, it was an up and down weekend for Rory Skinner. He just ate up his tyre in race 2, and we've seen the Ducatis as well in race 2 and race 3 that they started to show some more glimmers of hope. I mean, Tommy Bridle coming home in 5th place in race 2 and Josh Brooks in 6th. I mean, we weren't really looking at Tom Sykes over the weekend because it's his first time seeing Knockhill in, I think, 12 years. So I don't think he could have been expecting too much. But once again, Ducati showing slightly better results than the start of the season.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. It's slight improvements, and again, I'll echo what you said with Danny Buchan. I thought going into it he'd at least get a podium, because I think the only BSB races he's ever won have been around Knockhill, and I might be wrong there, but I think that's the only place he's ever won round, and it looked like even on the BMW last year that he was strong around there. So I don't know what had changed to
I mean, he
make
almost
it so
got
that
a podium.
He almost struggled
in
yeah,
race 3.
but there's almost, and then there's getting a podium. It's like, I don't know, I expected more from Big Danny. I think even the commentators did as well on Eurosport, but it was his best showing of the year so far. Hopefully it's not his last very good showing, because Knockhill sort of seems to be his prime racetrack to get good results out throughout a season, and BMW haven't really been there this season, especially even with the FHO team. But yeah, hopefully more from Danny, and Ducati are hopefully on the rise now with Tommy Bridewell especially.
A few people might say that they were disappointed to not see Taron McKenzie further up in the race results. Luke?
Yeah, I think going into the weekend you would be hoping Taron would be towards the front, especially
10th in race 2, and I think
was he 6th, 5th,
8th in race 3. 8th? I think.
Wow. Yeah, but Taron had an awful Saturday. Is really the only way to put it. Big crash out of going into turn 1. Really, it went rather early from what it looked like into turn 1, and destroyed the bike. Took him out of race 1 completely.
There is a really cool super slow-mo of that on the, I think it's on the official BSB social, Twitter or something, or Insta or TikTok or something like that. It's really cool.
But obviously then he started from the back of the grid in race 2 and made his way up to 10th, which was a very good ride. So really he may not be towards the front and getting the wins or the podiums, but that was a very good ride from Taron, and again he delivered the same in race 3. So I think it was, with all things considered, with how Saturday went, it was a good Sunday.
Yeah, was I doing him maybe a bit of a disservice, suggesting that he should have been higher when potentially Lewis did over and above what he was expected to do, and sort of, given the circumstances and his bad Saturday, did very well on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty respectable ride once again. He can't. I think it's still too early from his injury to be expecting fighting for where he should be. That's for podiums and wins every single weekend. It's still too early for that. And Knockhill, as I said earlier, such a physical track, and the way with his injury, and it's completely got rid of the flexibility of that break in his ankle. So it's made it so difficult for him to ride the bike, and he's finally starting just to kind of show some glimmers of hope. I mean, 8th place is pretty respectable, and it was such a big crash on the Saturday. I mean, even the Saturday night, there was still bits of a steering damper at the bottom of Duffus, and yeah, it's probably one of the worst places to crash at Knockhill, because if you crash at the top of Duffus, most likely your bike gets destroyed. I've never really seen a crash there where your bike doesn't get dig into the grass and doesn't get flipped around. But good ride for him. I mean, I don't think there was too many Tyrone McKenzie fans disappointed with that. They weren't really got that high of hopes. I think all Scottish hopes this weekend relied on Skinner, and now it's time for Taz just to regain a few points and try and just think about the showdown, think about the maybe 2 rounds time where he can start to think about getting towards the top 5.
Someone else who impressed me, especially in race 1, and I've had him highlighted on my screen, Storm Stacey, I think did very well in race 1 and 9th place, and I think that's an exceptional result for Storm. He looked good throughout the whole of Saturday, and as we say, still very young, same age as me, I think. So he's doing a good job, I think, this season. And if he can keep throwing in some top 10 results, especially with the team he's in, then he'll be doing well. Obviously, race 2 didn't really go the way he wanted to, and he crashed out. And I think he might have picked up a small ankle injury, from what I could see on social media.
Have you seen it? Wow.
But it's not like he's broken his ankle into a million pieces.
Well, true, yeah. But I mean, if you've not seen it, I don't have it to hand right now, but he posted on the Monday a picture of his right foot, and it looked mostly just like a foot, apart from it. Well, it looked like he'd been bitten by some like super poisonous spider or something, because he had like a massive, like you say, balloon type hump on his foot. But I mean, he was out riding the following
Still
day.
picked up 13th place, in race 3. So good weekend for Storm, I think.
It was a good weekend, and a lot of Storm Stacey fans still holding out hope that he will do better than what he's done this year. Lewis, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think Storm, certainly not how he looked strong all weekend, and I think that's all he really needs, maybe one more result like that, and then I think it shows that he deserves a better bike. I mean, it's not a terrible team he's on, but it's definitely not a team he can fight for race wins every single weekend for. But I would say, certainly at Cadwell Park, we can expect a good result from Storm. Last year, he looked so strong. He was battling with Rory Skinner last year at Cadwell Park on the factory Kawasaki. So I think Storm Stacey is certainly looking towards Cadwell Park, which is coming up in it's not too long, just in August. We'll be at Cadwell Park for British Superbikes. So he's doing a good job. He's doing exactly what he needs to do, and he's still young. Although he's been in British Superbikes for so long, it seems now, he's still so young, and he still has plenty of time on his hand to be able to learn and develop. So there's not really too much rush, but I definitely think Storm deserves a better bike.
Ooh. Well, the team are good, but it might just be that the whole package of everything needs to be perfect, and Maybe it will be. Maybe, again, Cadwell Park might be the place where everything just fits. That bike, that rider, the circumstances, everything. And who knows? But I want to mention one. I want to get your thoughts, actually, guys, on Kyle Ryde. A little bit overshadowed by Brad at the weekend, in that he was overshadowed by Brad at the weekend. But still, fantastic. Not taking anything away from Kyle. And I haven't seen any quotes or reasons as to why he didn't do that much. But what are your thoughts, Lewis?
Yeah, it was a good weekend for Kyle Ryde, and it was quite overshadowed, as you already mentioned, by his teammate Bradley Bay. And it was just him bringing home valuable points, just to keep him in contention for that showdown, keeping as high as position as he can. So whenever he goes in the showdown with the podium point system, he has the best advantage and tries just to go for the championship. So right now we're almost at a point in the season where I think he's starting just to use his head almost and just getting them points, because he knows he's in a pretty safe position for the showdown. So now if he can just keep that rolling on for the next quarter of the season, and then he can properly start getting into it and getting the results like we've seen. And especially whenever we go to places like, Silverstone, tracks that he's really good at, we can expect to see him once again fighting for victories. I mean, this is a track that he's done that amazing at in the past. I mean, he's done pretty good results, but it's never been fighting for race wins at Knockhill. So I think it was a pretty respectful result, but I think now it's just at the point in the season where he's just trying to get home points and trying to think about the championships. I actually don't think he was pushing that hard and risking too much.
What do you think, Luke?
I had heard that apparently Kyle wasn't too happy with how the bike was under lighter fuel load, which isn't normally something you hear. Normally you hear riders aren't happy with it on heavier fuel load, but it seemed like Brad and Kyle were the opposite way around. Kyle preferred how the bike felt early on in the races, and Brad preferred how his felt later on in the races. So potentially there's something that Kyle needs to look setup-wise, but he still had a solid weekend for himself.
And something that someone mentioned, I forgot who it was, regarding Tom Sykes at the weekend, almost sort of forgiving him really, and almost sort of excusing him as though he was sort of a total rookie and had no experience at World Championship level whatsoever. Given all the hype that I think everybody heaped upon him and the pressure, question is, I suppose, Luke, should Tom Sykes be doing better than what he is?
It was Lewis speaking about it earlier, and I agree with what he said. It's the first time Tom Sykes has laid eyes on Knockhill potentially since 12 years ago when he was
not changed,
BSB.
though, really.
Yeah, but the bikes have changed. Is the big difference. That's the big difference, and it's the thing of, Tom has been in World Championship, but there are no World Championship tracks like Knockhill. That is the big difference.
Okay.
Tom had become more used to the World Championship layout of tracks, the likes of Mazzano, Jerez, Aragon, which are all very different to Knockhill.
Fair enough. Lewis, same question for you, as you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Sykes, I mean, we know the bike's not at the best standard, but Josh Brooks did get a couple of good results. Tommy Bridewell being up there as well. But yeah, I stick with what I said earlier. I think, as Luke mentioned, the track is so different for everything else. I mean, like, he's used to the fast, open, flowing tracks that are usually somewhat pretty flat, and Knockhill is the exact opposite. It's tight, it's twisty, and every single corner matters at Knockhill. If you get one corner wrong, you practically mess up your whole lap. It's very hard to make up time at Knockhill, so it's taken them time just to get adjusted to these British tracks, to be honest, which is going to take him a bit of time. But he has a huge talent, as you mentioned, Lester. He has got plenty of experience underneath his belt, so I think certainly next year we need to start seeing him getting some good results, or at least matching his teammate at tracks, especially like Silverstone, Alton Park, Donington, some tracks that he might be a bit more used to. Like, I can still maybe excuse it a bit more and not kill for a lack of results, but certainly next year we need to start seeing him performing. But this year, I'm still going to give him an excuse. Interesting.
Okay. Maybe I was just being a bit too harsh on old Tom Sykes because, we just want him to do well. That's all. That's basically it, really. And given the amount of fuss that everyone was going on about Tom Sykes, as though he was going to do like a Scott Redding or something. I didn't think he would, to be honest. Again, nothing against Tom Sykes. I actually like him. We're just waiting for some good results to roll in, and I'm sure they will. As Lewis says, maybe next year, when that package of bike and stuff come together. Right, Luke, any other business regarding BSB and such? What was Idun? What happened with that?
Yeah, Christian on the sighting lap for race 1. It was, from the angle that we had on the TV, it wasn't great, but it looked like he pretty much just hit Josh Owens. I don't know if Lewis would have had a better angle of it at the track or not, but he took out Josh Owens on the sighting lap. Both of them were in the gravel, and Christian has detached a piece of bone from his humerus, which, as he said on his Instagram, isn't funny. And it does mean, it meant that his arm wasn't attached to his shoulder how it should have been, from what he was saying. So he basically, for safety, had to pull out of race 1 because his team got the bike back together, but he didn't take part, and then he didn't take part in race 2 and race 3, and turned into a commentator for race 2, and he did a good job, I thought, of commentary in race 2.
Nice spin on things, Luke. I was saying,
that's the positive you can take from Christian's weekend.
Is there any positives, Lewis, to take from Christian's weekend?
I mean, there wasn't a lot, to be honest. It was a pretty disappointing weekend from him. I mean, the crash, I was standing at the hairpin as well at the time, but I was getting live time and sorted on my phone. I didn't really expect a crash to happen in the warm-up laps. But, yeah, the team did a superb job of getting the bike fixed. I was super surprised at that. The bike didn't look too bad, to be honest. I mean, he managed to ride it back. The marshals let him ride it back. But Josh Owens, he just stood up, a little wave of that, a little bit of confusion, as you would expect after crashing on the warm-up lap. And then he just walked up and stood up and then went to the pits and just left his bike with the marshals to put in the back of the van. But yeah, it was such a strange crash to see. It was not what anyone was expecting to see, a crash on the warm-up lap. But from what I can tell, looking back on it, it was Christian's fault, and it's going to be a tough time for him, let's just say, next year. I'm picking up an injury from that as well. Josh Owens, he got off okay with it. But yeah, the hairpin, definitely a tricky corner racing, so it was not what we were expecting. It's not what Christian was expecting with his weekend at all. But I believe probably the only somewhat positive he can take out is the fact that he knows his team can get a bike back together pretty quick.
We'll take that. Incidentally, I've just been reminded on the old social medias that it's this weekend, it's as well as MotoGP, it's the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and we talked about it earlier in the season, and Wayne Rainey's 92 championship winning bike, he'll be on it, and this was him.
He was on it today.
Yeah. Oh, I've already missed it. Okay, well,
he rode up the hill today with King Kenny Roberts Sr., so that was a good sight to see. But he'll also be on it throughout the weekend with Schwantz and Doohan as well.
Okay, I was looking for a video of it, because they've been posting little clips, but they didn't post that. But yeah, it's great to see, I suppose, him being reunited with it isn't it? So, yeah, it's the live stream happened, as you rightly say, Luke, all day. I think it was like a 6-hour live stream, and same all weekend as well for the next few days. Goodwood Festival of Speed website is also a good resource to do. It used to be on Sky F1. I don't know if it still is this weekend, but either way, there's a live stream of it and plenty of videos. Check it out. Twitter and its social media, Goodwood Festival of Speed. Not just the cars whizzing up the hill, but legends on 2 wheels as well. And even some insane people on 3 wheels. But we don't talk about them too much. And yeah, from the pictures I've seen, and I haven't seen that run up the hill of Wayne Rainey yet. So I'll have to check that out for sure. So that's an interesting one, because in my head, I'm thinking it's still Wednesday, and it's not, is it? Because I've missed a day. This show was meant to be on yesterday, but thanks to the internet not being available. Anyway, so yeah, BSB. The next race is in a few weeks at Brands Hatch.
Brands Hatch.
Yes, that's right. And that'll be, is it Brands GP Hatch? Yes.
I imagine it will be around the GP circuit, yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be a good one, and I'll be there. If you see me in the paddock, say hello. And yeah, that should be good. Are you going, Luke?
No, I'm not. Not that I have plans on it at the moment. No,
okay.
It's a bit of a difficult one. Well, it's an annoyance to get to from Oxfordshire.
Oh right, yeah. Oh, because you're not doing the uni, are you, at the moment? And Luke's uni is like basically France. Oh,
yeah,
where is it? Southampton?
Southampton, yeah. So I could be on the Isle of Wight, pretty much.
Oh, yeah, same thing. So, yeah, have we talked about all the BSB stuff? What about the support races in BSB, Luke?
I was just looking at the Superstock races, and Billy McConnell took victory in the first race. Obviously, Tim Neve, who was championship leader, but I believe coming to this weekend, is out injured. So Billy McConnell took the first race win, and then in race 2, Richard Kerr took, I believe, his first race win in British Superstock, which was nice to see.
Yeah, not only Richard's first ever race win, but the Team AMD Motorsports first race win. The team actually comes from Dumfries, the same place where I come from, so it was nice seeing them getting their first win. And yeah, race 1, I was speaking to one of the mechanics who I know who works for the team, and they basically just said they burnt out the tyre. He went way too early, almost similar to what Rory Skinner did, and by the end of the race he had nothing left. But in race 2 it was a close victory, and it was right to the line. I mean, it was 23 thousandths of a second separated across the line, so it was a good battle. It looked like Billy McConnell had slightly more late race pace in race 2, but Richard Carey he had the pace when it mattered, and he managed just to keep that race win and keep that first race win, who the team owner sadly missed by not attending. Well, it was his first race weekend that he missed all year, and he ended up winning and missing the first ever win, so he's gutted for that.
Always the way.
He won't be coming back again.
But yeah, other stuff happening in the support classes as well. What? Well, I suppose since you were there, Lewis, which particular race stood out for you, and what happened in it?
Well, two main classes, two main talking points is obviously Jack Kennedy in Super Sport once again doing what he does the best, and that is just absolutely dominating really. But it was in race 2, I believe, for the Super Sport. It was quite a good battle for the podium positions with Harry Truelove and McGlinchey and just Bradley Perry. So there was a good battle there. It's just a shame it wasn't for that race lead. Jack Kennedy just absolutely unstoppable. There was also quite a big crash on race 1 involving Sam Monroe, which he's had quite a few off this season, and it was his home run, so he was hoping for some good results. But high side, he coming out of Clark's and started from the back of the grid, I think, in race 2, and he managed to make it all the way up into about 7th in class, I believe. So Yeah, it was a good result for Sam Monroe, home round, but I believe now he's also called it quits for his season in British Supersport. As I think by reading his social media, he just kind of fell out of love with riding this season, whether that be with just the crashes that he's had and not enough results. But it just seems like he's not enjoying it, so he's taking some time away just to go back, do some club stuff, and then hopefully return back next year. So
you might be racing Monroe then when you're riding around Knockhill, Lewis.
Yeah, well, at the same race event racing, yeah. But yeah, it's quite disappointing for Sam and quite some other home heroes, I guess you could say. Some Scottish riders had some good success this weekend in the Honda British Talent Cup with Troy Jeffrey getting his first podium of the season. A double podium of the season, yeah. It was fantastic to see. He's been sort of threatening to do it at his home round for a couple of years. He had I can't remember what happened last year, but I remember he had some sort of technical issue and got wheeled off the grid, much to everyone's devastation, who was really sort of cheering him on to, because, I mean, a great family, and I know his dad talking to him, he's like, just wait till Knockhill, he'll show you, he knows the place like his back of his hand, and as soon as we get to Knockhill, boom, podium, and it didn't happen for him last year. But this year, boom, yes, it did, a double podium, and but it wasn't entirely all his own doing. He did have a little bit of help because two of the main leaders had problems. Johnny Garness having a wind-related incident, which isn't as bad as what you think it is. It's because it was actually very windy at the circuit. On Johnny's weighs about as much as a feather. So I believe the official line is that together with the lightness of that package of rider and bike, and with the Scottish summer breeze, helped him into the gravel trap, almost Mary Poppins style. Probably wasn't like that, but anyway, Johnny Garness DNF'd from the Honda British Talent Cup in race number 1. And Carter Brown, who was, I think at the time, fighting with Sullivan Mounsey and Evan Belford for then second, seemed to have a bit of a technical issue. Wasn't sure whether it was gearbox or engine related, but I think they replaced the gearbox for race 2 anyway. He had an issue, technical issue, which meant ultimately it was fighting it out for the win, Evan Belford and Sullivan Mounsey. Them two sorted it out between themselves to the delight of Evan Belford, who picked up his, it was actually his first race of the season, having come back from a injury at the test at Silverstone the day before the season began. Broke his leg or something, I'm sure it was his leg. Sullivan Mounsey, on only his second weekend of the season, finished in second place, and Troy Jeffrey in third. And race number 2 was incident packed as well. It was Garness who won that one, and who was second in race number 2? I forgot now. Was it Jeffrey? I forgot. Carter Brown.
Oh, Carter Brown.
They were
yes,
fighting all race.
That's right. Yes, there was so much happening. It was all a bit of a blur. And Troy Jeffrey again on the podium once more, and Sullivan Mounsey and Evan Belford did what they, if you saw the race on the Eurosport stream or on the highlights on social media, did what they were threatening to seemingly do all race long in race 1, and they actually tangled, and Sullivan ended up taking Evan out. Or so it would seem. Anyway, he did get 3 penalty points on his licence, Sullivan, not for that incident, but for the start line incident where he apparently made a bit of a manoeuvre off the start and chopped, I think it was Evan Belford off. So 3 points on your licence for that, Sully. Naughty boy. But yeah, overall, great weekend in the Honda British Talent Cup. And, Lewis, I hear that you've actually been racing faster than those Honda British Talent Cup racers around Knockhill to some success this season, having got a podium, albeit at club level, around Knockhill.
Yeah, and the wet Friday, on the Friday practice, it was practically like a tsunami out there. It was Knockhill rain.
Oh, it was.
Whenever it rains at Knockhill, it properly rains. I mean, it was freezing, it was wet, it was not what you wanted to be in, to be honest. Whenever you're riding in conditions like that, it almost feels like hailstones. Even if it's barely raining, it feels like hailstones smacking against your neck. But, yeah, I mean, I was faster than some of the riders who are just getting acclimatised to the wet conditions without giving themselves too much of a hot head. But no, it was a good weekend for the British Talent Cup, and it was great seeing some people that I've raced against with Scott Mcphee and Troy Jeffrey get a bit more coverage and get some good results in Troy's case. I mean, I was watching race 2 down at McIntyre's, and I watched Troy on the final lap of the race take slightly too defensive line going into McIntyre's, and I said to my dad at the time that he's going to get overtaken because of this, because if you go slightly too defensive and mess up your drive on these smaller CC bikes around Knockhill at McIntyre's, it affects your drive all the way to Clark. So coming into Butchers, which is the next corner after McIntyre's turn 4, he got overtaken and by Carter Brown, and he just couldn't make it back in the end. So Troy's still happy with 2 podiums over the course of the weekend, but certainly not at second place, which seems to be on the cards.
Yeah, he said after the race, Troy, that he seemed remarkably calm. To be honest, the team and the mechanics were more delighted than he was about his first podium. Troy said, yeah, he was expecting to get a podium, so he wasn't overly surprised when it happened. Nice to have that sort of confidence, but it looks good for the cameras as well. If you put in a bit of a show, it's a bit of a celebration. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, yeah, it's still great from the Honda British Talent Cup racers, and the rumour is, and it's only a rumour, that there may be an wild card rider entering for the next round at Brands Hatch. Unconfirmed, might have made that up, might not happen, but it might. Watch this space. And it might be someone from Fab Racing. We don't know. Watch this space. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. But anyway, yeah, overall. So, overall, BSB weekend for you, Lewis. How was it? You were there, and you got a bit wet, and you got a bit... it was all right the rest of the weekend. I noticed when I was there, the Sunday seemed really quiet, and it might have just been because there was no wind buffeting me around, but the whole place seemed a bit more relaxing on the Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, we practiced all conditions that go over the course of the weekend. It was tsunami Friday morning. It dried up towards the end of Friday. Saturday, it was windy to say the least for these riders. And even for the fans at the side of the track, I mean, it was freezing. And then for the Sunday, we had pretty nice weather, especially towards the end of the day. I was starting to feel myself slightly burning, as Scott's not used to the weather. So, yeah, I mean, it was a good weekend of racing. We had some good races in the British Superbike especially. It was probably where most of the racing came from this weekend. Talent Cup up there as well. And there was also, of course, the sidecars, which didn't get too much coverage over the course of the weekend and was left to last out over the course of the weekend, so not many people watched them.
Oh.
But it had a bit of everything over the course of the weekend. It was probably... I slightly missed the Junior Supersport. I think Junior Supersport around Knockhill would have been a great show for all the fans there, which, as you said, I mean, it was still a good showing for Knockhill fans. I mean, last year we only had, I think, 1,000 allowed in with the way restrictions work. So it was, wherever the numbers were, I don't know myself, it was still nice to see a lot of fans at Knockhill. All the sheds practically packed. So yeah, it was nice to see so much enthusiasm as well for Scottish racers, and everyone's now just looking towards Brands at the other side of the country.
Yeah, certainly, and it will be. Thank you, Knockhill, and touring car champion Gordon Shedden, I believe, was actually there. He was on the gate checking people's tickets in, which was to my surprise. Nice to see. Doesn't happen anywhere else. But there you go. Great weekend in BSB and all these sport categories as well. And a big thank you, really, to Knockhill and the organisers, the council, for putting on a much missed, a much needed return back to Scotland for BSB. Luke, it was a great weekend.
Oh, I'll take your word for it. The racing was good, but I'm not sure Knockhill was to be there. So I like Knockhill as a track, and the racing always delivers there.
Yeah, well, you should have come.
It's a bit of a trek.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's worth it, sort of. I mean, that's just what you tell yourself when you're there anyway, because you're there. Yeah, it's. I enjoyed it. It was good, even though I was busy, sort of working, and my attention was elsewhere, and for a lot of it, so I wasn't entirely being a total fan as such, but it was still good for me to sort of be there. I mean, to give you an idea, if you don't know what the conditions were like, if you weren't there on the Friday, to give you an idea, this is literally what I was doing on the Friday. I was trackside, and it was raining quite a lot, and I was down at the hairpin, getting very, very wet and very soaked, and just sort of filming the whole thing and wondering why I'm filming the whole thing, getting really wet and soaked, when I don't really want to be doing that. Anyway, I got very wet. So, yeah, never let it be said that I don't do some hard work, because I sometimes do. I don't know who says that. Anyway. Right. Is that all we have time for? Do we have... Oh, yeah. Luke, your rider ratings for MotoGP. Have you been updating them?
I have been, and I know the top rider is Quartararo, and that's all I can remember from looking at them briefly last night.
Okay.
I think it's Quartararo and Aleix are the top two, like in real life, but then it gets a bit iffy after that.
To be fair, I'd also forgotten until about 4 seconds ago. I'll let you off with that one. But yeah.
I have been updating them, but I don't have access to them.
So for we've been keeping sort of track of Luke's alternate championship via whom he rates after every single race, and that's mostly sort of follows the race results, as the best riders often end up towards the top anyway. But sometimes you reveal some things, Luke, about riders and how much you hate or love certain riders, depending on how many points you give or take from them per race. Just interesting to see. And no other people do that sort of thing. They have a spreadsheet of their own. Don't lie. Yes, you do. You know who you are. So yeah, there we go. Interesting from MotoGP 2 and 3. Should we try and get some predictions about what might happen this weekend?
I said it before we came live, and I'll say it again now. If it's wet, I'm going Jack Miller for the win.
Jack Miller for the win in MotoGP. Yep. What about second and third?
Ooh, Zarco's going to be on the podium as well. If it's wet or dry, I reckon. So I'm going to put him third, and then I'm going to put Quartararo second.
Oh, interesting. Lewis?
Yeah, it's a tough one, especially the conditions that we might be facing, of course, over the course of the weekend. So I'm going to agree with Luke on Fabio in second, and I'm going to go with a podium, for the first ever podium for Maverick Vinales on the Aprilia. I want Maverick just get a third place. It's a shot in the dark, I certainly think, but I just really want to see that happen. And I'm going to go for the win. I'm going to go for Big Naya, actually. Although he didn't go that well last year, I think he's going to be so determined back, and it's not necessarily the safest option, shall we say. I'm going with a shot in dark this week, but I think Bagnaia, Quartararo and Vinales is a bold prediction.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, yeah. Let us know your thoughts before the weekend, before the actual races. Would you actually put money on it? On any of those happening? Last time I did that, I lost a lot of money.
I think I would on Jack.
Yeah?
I have confidence in Jack going into this weekend.
So let's say, hypothetically, you had £10 available to bet. You'd bet all of that £10 on Miller winning. And who did you say for the win, Lewis?
Bagnaia. Yeah.
You'd put money on that, would you?
I'll put money in Quartararo getting a podium, as I said, shot in the dark. I didn't want to just agree with look this week, so
okay,
something a bit different.
Well, I'm remaining firmly on the fence, but I will certainly hold you two to your predictions on next week's show, and let's hope that we do one. That is all we have time for on the Superbike show this evening. Thank you very much for tuning in and being part of the show and getting in touch with us. And thank you. And it's been great. Thank you, Luke, for coming on the show this evening. I noticed the big lights on. Nice. So night's drawing in now.
A little light, fair enough. And Lewis, Ray, we'll see you and hear you back in action next week. Oh, God. At Fab Racing and the coverage which continues here at the British Mini Bikes Championship here on Motorsport Radio and on Fab Racing, the future home, or the home of future stars, and the Honda British talent. Yeah, it's got all the talented kids in it anyway. And Lewis is the commentator in there as well. So as well as a accomplished Knockhill rider as well. Other tracks pending. So be good to see you there next week. And thank you. And that's it from all of us tonight. And check out the website, motorsport.radio. Download the podcast, take it with you wherever you go, slam it into your phone and take it with you on the drive around to the next circuit. Night.
Motorsport Radio.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Ray from the Kawasaki Racing Team.
Hi, this is Nick Hamilton.
Hi, I'm Jamie Chadwick.
Hey everyone, I'm Bradley Smith.
Hi, I'm Joan Zarco.
Hi, I'm Bradley Wright.
Hi, I'm Seb Morris.
Hi, I'm Dan Linfoot from Honda Racing, British Superbike Team, and this is Motorsport Radio.